about my experience in the Middle East. And this is very relevant because you know that it's still very much on the news. And of course, I don't know where the Middle East begins, I don't know where it ends. It seems to go on and on and on, involving North Africa and Turkey, Syria, Afghanistan, and it looks as though it's spreading everywhere. So, right, take me back to maybe about 10 years younger than you when I was. Now, this is basically just one of the satellite photographs where bombers have gone through the suburb. And if you look at the top picture, those are the intact buildings. After one round of bombs, you can see that a lot of buildings have got their roofs blown off, right? And of course, if you're on the ground, you can see the collateral damage. Even assuming that all the large coffins were intended to be murdered, the little ones are not. I'm going to leave with you my book called From Beirut to Jerusalem. It is published in Singapore as well as in Malaysia, but the edition I will leave you is the updated one, published in Malaysia. I leave it with Crystal, and then you can just look at it. You can order the book anyway. Right? It is actually, it started not as a book, it started as this talk. And you can see this slide is already 33 and a half years old. In the old days when they actually start hand printing all the pictures and the graphics, and then it's grown with mold because with the slides of how this all began. I was working in St. Thomas's Hospital. I wish I can say it's UCH, but it's not. When I heard the news of something going on in a place I don't even know, but except that the people who are bombing another place, I know very well. I grew up in Singapore. I was born in Penang. So just in case you just think that I'm purebred Singaporean, but I was born in Penang, and I grew up in Singapore. I was educated in Singapore. So basically, I am from that part of the world. Right? And but I grew up as a Christian in a Singapore church, and we were very pro-Israel. And to my horror, I realized that it's really war things to destroy another country. And I looked and found the country was called Lebanon. It makes no sense to me. But many things in life never make sense. And the only sense it can make is in relation to what you're going to do about it. Either you're going to sit down and discuss and discuss and discuss and be judgmental, or you ask yourself, is there something I can do for the victims? And very soon, when my frame of mind has changed from the wise, kind of pretending to be wise commentator, Christian aid sent round asking for a doctor to go out and treat the wounded. The bombs are still falling, and but I just knew that there's something I had to do. And for you, young doctors to be, I'm sure somewhere during your life, you will come across something that you really want to do, something passionate. It might not be going to a war zone in a stupid way, but it could be fighting a cause at home, doing something which means a lot, not only to you, but to others. Answer that call. So I resigned from St. Thomas's, we just had a junior doctor's strike, and at that time it was worse, okay? If you want to go and work in a war zone, you resign. So I resigned, and my professor thought I was mad, because it's so hard to pursue a surgical career, and here you are, you started on the ladder, and then now you just descended from the ladder to go to some place. So I flew in with Christian 18, and it was Lebanon. Exactly as a television show. Blocks and blocks of buildings destroyed. 11-story building hit by what we call an implosion bomb. Now I don't want to talk to you about the ballistics of bombs and so on because it's too complicated to take another 2 hours. But basically bombs can be explosive or implosive, okay? So it explodes and makes a mess in the surrounding, or it pulls everything down very neatly, burying everything, okay? So this is 11 floors, and it buried 200 people there. So this young woman doctor realized that I can do nothing. I really can do nothing. So it is humiliating and it was upsetting, and I realized that I can only do so little. But since I'm here, I will do that little. And the coastline of beautiful Beirut which is capital of Lebanon, was reduced to rubble. If you want to take a holiday now, because a lot of it is rebuilt, you can see how beautiful Beirut is. But of course, if you go there now, you'll find 1.2 million Syrian refugees in a city of 4.5 million. I'll just return from there trying to set up a teaching program in the refugee hospitals. So after 10 weeks of continuous bombardment, siege, denial of water, medicine, a group called the PLO evacuated. And at the time, being a Christian fundamentalist, and I was terrified by PLO. I was glad they're gone. But I began to question who these people were. 14,000 Palestinians were evacuating, meaning that 14,000 families have lost their breadwinner. Because these are people who worked for PLO, not only as army, but also as doctors, as administrators, as lawyers, teachers, and so on. They were told to go in exchange for a ceasefire, leaving behind broken families. Families who have already lost people through the bombardment, families now losing their breadwinners, their brothers, and so on. But anyway, peace returned, and I was asked to work for a group called the Palestine Red Crescent Society. Now, at that stage, I was full of the Old Testament, and I don't know how many of you are Christians. Very good, you don't know anything about Old Testament, but I can tell you what it is. It calls the Palestinians Philistines, as my church does. And here I was joining the Philistines Red Crescent, a Muslim organization. But it was a good thing because the PRCS, Palestine Red Crescent Society, is an observer member of the International Red Cross and the WHO. And in a war zone, they looked after everybody free. So that's fine. I was sent out by the NHS. My trip was financed by British donors, taxpayers who donated to Christian aid. So here, I'm very happy to treat the wounded free. They took me to a place called Gaza Hospital, because Gaza meant nothing to me then. But of course, Gaza meant a lot to all of us now, because it's never completely out of news. Every couple of months, there's something going on in Gaza, something going on in Jerusalem, and that part of the world keeps reminding us. But in 1982, when I arrived here, this is just simply Gaza Hospital. But I worked with a group of people who call themselves Arabs and who call themselves Palestinians, but who are not terrorists, so it doesn't square. From the top of Gaza Hospital in the evening, I looked out and I saw the refugee camps. This was how the refugee camps Sabra Shatila looked like in 1982, after the bombardment. Much of the roofs are gone, half the buildings are gone, and yet you see people coming back, women, old men, carrying with them young children, very little belongings, to live in those ruin and rubble, rebuilding their homes. And I begin to respect these people. I begin to really realize what strong people they are. So I went down and talked to them, and they gave me coffee and told me of their stories. Told me of some place called Palestine, as you can see on the extreme left. That was what they call Palestine, which is today called Israel. And the green was British Mandate Palestine. There's a little bit white on Jewish settlements, which gradually increased and increased and increased, and on the map on the extreme right, you find that there's very little bits of green map. And that is what we are supposed to build a two-state solution is all about. So that was, in a nutshell, the conflict between Israel and Palestine. I don't want to talk about who's right, who's wrong, Hamas versus Israel. This is what's actually happening on the land. Palestine is disappearing. But that's geography and politics. The important thing is this group of people are very cultured. I saw them embroidered beautiful, beautiful embroidery, and this is part of it, and this is it. And women in the evening, they were sewed on silk, beautiful silk designs. And very soon I began to understand that each design represents a different village in Palestine. It's so complicated, but it's beautiful. And I learned how to drink Arabic coffee, cook very basic Arabic food, and without me realizing it, I'm beginning to love the Palestinians. Really love them and respect them. They are my friends now. My own Gaza hospital was bombed. Okay, this is bombed from the top, 11th floor, full of holes, and shelled from the mountains. This is one of the doctor's quarters. Yet, people came back to live around the hospital, and these were children, some of them no legs, others no arms, but broken families living in this kind of condition. I worked with Palestinian doctors and nurses who are kind and gentle, nothing like the vicious terrorists which I thought they were. Yeah, that's another operation. I'll explain to you later on. Okay. And that went on for a month, and the ceasefire was broken when tanks rolled in from the south, from Israel, into Beirut city, shelling their way around the camp. And soon the shelling came closer and closer, and in the evening, on the 15th of September, the whole refugee camp was surrounded. Nobody can escape, nobody can get in. International Red Cross kept radioing, trying to find what's happening in the hospital. The signal was cut. And then it began. Women were shot, Palestinian women. Old people were killed. Babies were killed. Frightened people ran into our hospital, 2,000 of them, squatting all over the hospital with horrible stories that gunmen has gone into the refugee camps, killing people indiscriminately. Of course, there's no time to find out what's going on. I just kept operating with my team, and as I took this picture, we were already running out of blood. The last unit of blood. I operated a baby and his mother who were dynamited together. And I don't know who to give the blood to. The mother says to the baby, and she said, please give me some painkillers, and she died. The baby survived. At night, the skies of Sabra and Shatila were flared up with military flares, and the shooting and killing continued. It went on from Wednesday to Saturday morning. On Saturday morning, the medical team and I, the foreigners, were escorted out. 22 of us. My fear then was, we had operated on so many people, and there were 30 over critically ill patients. And I just thought that the moment we left, they would come in and kill all the patients. And I need to tell you this because you're medical students. 2 medical students doing their elective with the PRCS, I don't know what possessed the German and Finnish medical student to do an elective in a war zone, negotiated to stay behind with the patients. So they say that at least they're safe, because if something happened to them, we're here to witness. And if they're here, their chances of being killed is much less. And it is to those medical students that these 30-odd patients of mine owe their lives. The rest of us, 20 of us, were taken down the Ham Alley. This was the same road that you have seen in the beginning. And I realized that people were murdered and killed. Some of the bodies already rotting. And at this time, I asked myself, why can this happen? How is it that this can happen? Because up to then, I still am confused about Palestinian refugees, PLO terrorists, and what's it all about. But as I looked at the dead bodies, I realized that each one of them had fled their homeland in Palestine and found themselves refugees away, and then to die like that. And it is not only that it is not only how they died, but as refugees in a foreign country. And the homes which had rebuilt were again destroyed. And at the end of the refugee camp, this is a mass grave. 1,000 bodies were buried in it, part of the 3,500 people killed by British figures. You can see that Saul was brought to cover them, and so that nobody can identify the bodies anymore. And there were orphans everywhere, without homes, because their homes were destroyed, without parents. And this little boy was in my care, the last one I operated on, and together with him, 27 of his members of his family were murdered. His grandmother walked 20 kilometers to investigate for herself and found that they were all gone. Now this is quite important that you listen to the next 3 minutes. Okay? Now, that is a culture gap. Whenever you go and do relief work, you can't speak the language. I don't speak Arabic, I still don't. Okay, I speak Arabic with a Chinese accent. And all my Palestinian friends, oh, Dr. Swee, she's talking Mandarin. I say, no. So, there's in everywhere a culture gap. Alright? Me, a Singaporean doctor, living in UK, going to Beirut, she, Palestinian woman, who speaks nothing but Arabic. So I wanted to know how she felt. Actually, my mission is just to tell her that her grandson is alive, and she was hospitable. First thing is coffee, sit down, and she burst into tears. And said, what's there left to say? What can I say in the memory of my children? Our doves are still here, our carnations give fragrance, and our sparrows sing their usual songs. Yet my children were nowhere to be found. Beirut, we took all I had, and we took my last hope in life. My heart lies dead on the street. Abu Zuhair, my fine young son, was cruelly cut off his soil, his roots on your soil. Would whoever murdered you feel your pain? Would his mother understand? Mother says, my children, come visit our graves. I go to the graves and tenderly embrace their stones. I ask the stones to make way so that you can breathe. I ask them to take care of you. How I envy those of you who are present when the loved ones died. Did you let them die thirsty? Or were you merciful enough to give them a drink? I ask every passing bird to carry my love and anxiety to you, and return with your news. My calls are unanswered. There are thousands of miles and mountains between us now. You died too young, your eyes mingled with the sand. Life, what life is left to us? Our hearts have died, and our tears have dried, for all the young men and women who have died. God Almighty, give us patience, and my children, may my love always be a lantern to your path, and may God show you the holy way. Doctor, please go away. We open all our wounds. We're so weary, there's nothing left to say. Quite important, because where we are sitting now, in the middle of London, in one of the prestigious colleges of medicine, this sounds alien, but when you unpack human suffering, it is universal. Whether it is my mother, or yours, or the relatives of the 7th July patient, Charlie Abdul, or whatever it is, it's the same pain. And when I understood what she said, I was devastated. I came out, and a group of children found me. Of course, Singapore, Malaysia is blank, but I'm Chinese looking, so they said, oh, the Chinese doctor has come back. Because from where they were, they thought we were taken by the soldiers and killed. So soon I was surrounded by children, lots and lots of children. And a group of them stood up and said, Doctora, Sarina, doctor, please take a picture. Take a picture of us. We are the children of Sabra and Shatila. Because tomorrow, even our refugee camps could be flattened, and nobody would know who we are. But you have a picture of us, and here we are. So, pocket camera out, and as I begin to switch to take a picture, they raise their hands in the victory sign and say, we are here, we are not afraid. You can show our pictures to people all over the world. And this picture was 33 years ago. I can share it with you. It is because of the children's courage, the Palestinians, people's resilience, and my own sense that there should be justice. Because without justice, there's no peace. That I continue to support the Palestinians. And now, when things get very tough and surely are into tough spaces, I revisit this picture to look at them. I started speaking. Often, you all, sometimes when you work abroad, you will come across the dilemma as to whether you should speak up. Doctors should not speak up, right? You should just do your work. But when does the role of a medical technician end, and when does the role of a human being begin? The human part of me say, yes, you speak up. You speak up for the victims, and you speak up for them, because you are not only a doctor who stitch up a few wounds, you are the advocate. So that was me going to Jerusalem to give evidence to the Israeli commissioner. So 1987, International Year of Shelter for the Homeless. This was Shakira camp. And when all this collapsed, people began to flee and live in this kind of condition. Now you can identify, it looks very much like a Syrian situation. Each black curtain, one Palestinian family, or maybe 5, 15, all has vanished. How am I for time?
7 minutes.
7 minutes. So, what do we do in a situation like that? Okay, how do we bring hope when there's no hope? At the time, I was asked by the Bishop of Jerusalem to go to Gaza. Now this is Gaza, okay, this is Gaza Strip, under siege from all sides. That time was 1987-88, the first Intifada, first Palestinian uprising, when the Palestinians of Gaza and West Bank living under occupation decide to mount a big civil disobedience, throwing stones at the army, general strike and so on. So many of them were wounded, clashes between the army and civilians, and that's why I got the SOS. Of course, Gaza has seen more spectacular, like over the past 6 years. We have more, like 4 major, 8 wars in Gaza. This was the last, and you can remember it just happened 2 years ago. So this is Erez. Many of you, of your colleagues, ask me, how can I go to Gaza? I just say that you can't go to Gaza unless there is a very special connection. This is a checkpoint. And once inside Gaza, you can see how crowded it is. 1.8 million people living. So if you drop a bomb to get one terrorist, you are lucky if you got the terrorist, but you certainly will get at least a dozen other uninvolved people, and it's called collateral damage. But I worked in a Christian hospital, so Gaza is not all Muslim fundamentalists, fanatics and so on. This hospital I worked in is a Christian hospital, and I worked with Christian doctors, Muslim doctors, Palestinian doctors, and of course these were the wounded, these were the dead, and these were the hungry, because in any conflict, when you have a big curfew, people have nothing to eat. But it's important because for the first time, the world television showed the face of Palestinian people. And then we begin to see that they are our brothers and sisters. Lovely young children, these are the girls. They call them the Intifada girls. The refugee camp, this is Jabali camp. Sewage, by the same beautiful Mediterranean Sea where you go on holiday. This was Gaza beach, Gaza sunset, Gaza spring. Citrus, which has been planted in the area for hundreds of years. But of course, this is what we see on the news. We don't see the beauty of Gaza. We saw the destruction. So by the time I went back to revisit Gaza, the Gaza I knew so well has been reduced to this kind of state. American school, the prestigious school, most prestigious in Gaza, bombed 4 times. 250 people killed after one air raid. The mortuary of Shifa, children killed. So the operating room of Shifa Hospital, and Palestinians without hope. it is very difficult to be a Palestinian because not only have you got to build, you've got to rebuild. But unless you rebuild, there's no hope. And all the time when it's grim, I remember these children. And of course, I add to that the children of Gaza, who are painting pictures like that. If you look at what the kids, the children paint, it is telling, because you can see that they see themselves protecting their homes with burning tires, with blockades, throwing stones. They are trying to join paramedics, and in come the tanks, the helicopters, the F-16 blowing their homes up. So this is not very good psychology for kids, but that unfortunately is the truth. And how do we take the children from this kind of memory to beyond? It's something which is not simply, giving food, giving emergency care. It's taking children to this. That children who painted those distressing pictures also made this as part of their therapy. So you can see they make beautiful things out of very basic objects. And my collection of all these gifts from them began to grow. And long may the hopes of children continue. I'm an optimist. After all that, I'm still very optimistic. Because even if I go and I die, I hope that at least some of you will continue to have a vision of a better world.